Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Hope you're feeling well. It's Wednesday. We're halfway there. Some of us living on a prayer. I am living on Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, this is not an advertisement for Dunkin' Donuts. I just happen to really like it. Never been a Starbucks guy. How about you? Probably shouldn't even say their name. I know that they're totally woke. But you're listening to the Wake Up America show, where we know that if you go woke, you go broke. We aren't broke over here. We're doing just fine. Thanks to the support of viewers like you, smashing that like button whenever you tune in to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've got some great guests today. Probably the most guests I've ever had in a show. A1 top tier guests, just one after another. Bam, bam, bam. Top of the show, Vance Ginn. He is a former economist at the Trump White House, as well as a senior fellow for Americans for Tax Reform. Going to be joining us soon to talk about the debt debacle and the bank collapses all across the country. Such a nice positive topic to start the show. After that, at 7:30 this morning, John Burke, former drill sergeant, now the man himself, with his own giant podcast, Building a Network, will be joining us today to talk about Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk tag teaming to start a show on Twitter. Yes, this broadcast medium just gets more and more viable every single day. I'm excited to talk to Judge Andrew Napolitano at 8 o'clock, and we're going to have a nice little debate about what RFK Jr. had to say about the CIA assassinating his uncle, John F. Kennedy. Crazy stuff. We'll talk about that at 8 o'clock. Maybe not so crazy. At 8:30 today, we're going to speak to Kevin Demerit. It's a new California gold rush. Yeah, with the floods in recent months, they're saying that there's a brand new California gold rush as more gold has gotten broken up and headed down into the hills. More people are finding giant nuggets than ever since perhaps the 1800s. We'll talk about that at 8:30 today with our friends over at Lear Capital, and it'll be a great show. But first up, let's talk to our friend Vance Ginn about the debt ceiling debacle and ask the question, will the 14th Amendment be invoked in order for the president to unilaterally raise the debt ceiling? A new poll that came out showed that most Americans, more than half, do not want to raise the debt ceiling. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. Good morning, Vance.
Hey, good morning, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Glad to have you here. What is the point of this debt ceiling if not only does Congress keep raising it, but then the president can just turn around and say, screw that?
Yeah, Austin. I mean, it's something else. They want to throw fingers at everyone else except looking at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, we're spending too much. We're racking up massive amounts of deficits. The national debt has increased by $5 trillion just over the last 2 years. We've had 40-year inflation highs. It's one thing after another. And this is another way that they're trying to deflect from their bad policies coming out of D.C. And then, of course, the Fed and all the bad money printing that they've been doing over the last couple of years as well. But look, this 14th Amendment and everything else is just a shell game. It's just something for them to point to deflect from what they really should be doing, which is negotiating with the House Republicans. They've already passed a debt ceiling bill that has went over to the Senate now. They should go ahead and get this done, because at the end of the day, this could make us default on our debt, cause interest rates to soar and inflation to soar. This is not a good situation. Senate Democrats, the president needs to come to the table and get something done.
Yeah, inflation. I went to the supermarket over the weekend. I'm blessed enough to have a wife who does most of the grocery shopping. And when I went to go buy some stuff for a party on Saturday, I was looking at the prices and oh my God, I couldn't believe how expensive everything was. It was like $5 for like a little packet of marshmallows and stuff like that. And then I say to myself, have prices ever come down? I mean, I guess deflation is a thing, but have we ever seen something like that, or would that even be a good idea, Vance?
Austin, we haven't seen that very often, especially given the Federal Reserve keeps printing money and putting money in the economy over time. But that leads to more inflation if supply of goods and services aren't going to keep up at the same rate. We saw a lot of deflation, which means declining prices. The general level of prices are going down. During the Great Depression, we also saw it a little bit during the Great Recession in the 08-09 period, but typically we do not see that there is a deflation overall. I think that we could use some deflation right now, honestly, Austin. I mean, given what you said about food prices, you look at home prices, which already are starting to deflate a little bit across the economy. We saw a lot of inflated markets because of all the excess government spending, because of the Federal Reserve printing too much money, and all that now needs to get out of the system so markets can clear. Until then, I think we're going to continue to have a weak economy, and especially when you have this debt ceiling issue going on as well. Interest rates have already been going up, so that means your mortgage payments are going to go up. Many people won't be able to afford a mortgage or a home, and so it's going to have a lot of repercussions throughout the overall economy.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's something that I know a lot of people who are already on the margins of society economically are struggling to keep up. And it feels like a lot of people don't really have a voice in this debate, Vance. I mean, a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff is very high level. It can sometimes be difficult to understand. But when you go to the supermarket and you see that the cost of steaks or the cost of beef or things like that have gone up so much, I mean, just basic staples have gone
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, the supply chain, I mean, we knew that COVID-19 was going to have these kinds of impacts or effects. But I mean, what's really difficult, I think, for most people to see, Vance, is the difference between how much of what we're seeing out there in the economic instability is just a natural side effect of the pandemic versus how much of this is man made. And how would you
Mhm.
quantify that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Austin. I think it's something that's going to be a lot of economic reports and studies for a number of years. But if I looked at it, I think initially there were definitely some supply chain issues that were on the supply side of the economy. That because I mean, countries were shutting down. America basically was shutting down. The state governors were shutting down each state across the country, and we've learned from the repercussions of that, not only to our economy but also to our kids and the learning loss that happened at these schools. But it helped revive the school choice revolution, which is a good thing. But whenever you look at the economy as a whole, I think early on there was a lot of supply chain disruptions. But then, Congress spent a lot of money. They passed out all these checks. They increased the amount that you could get on unemployment benefits. So personal income didn't really go down, meaning people could spend, but at the same time, supply wasn't coming back online. And then the Fed printed about $4 trillion. That's how much actually $5 trillion is how much their balance sheet increased by, from 4 trillion to 9 trillion. You put that amount of money in the economy and you don't have the same amount of supply, you're going to have inflation. I don't care if it was during a shutdown or not. And so I think about 80% was more demand related after they